There we go. There we go.
Gotta look out for each other.
I know. Thank you. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. Wow. 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 It is Friday. It is 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. And I am your host, Laquita Monley, and this is Walking in Purpose and Building Kingdom People. I know, guys, it's been quite a while since we've been on a live on a Friday evening, so I'm gonna just give a few people a chance to come on in the room, as they say. So let Facebook and YouTube do their thing and notify everybody that we're getting on and we're live. But it's such a blessing and a privilege to be able to be here on this beautiful Friday evening, to be able to share with our brothers and sisters in the Lord, and to, share with believers and unbelievers alike. I have an amazing guest today. Her name is Dr. LaTarsha Holden, and she has a word from the Lord for us on today. I'm gonna spend just a little bit of time doing some introductions, and so we can get to know more about Dr. Holden, who she is, what she does. I've had the pleasure recently, and I'm telling you guys, you don't want to miss it. So y'all get those like and share buttons. I see everyone starting to come in the room. I appreciate you. God bless you. God bless you. Welcome, welcome, welcome. If this is your first time, please don't forget to hit that like button, that share button, and let's get this broadcast out, because the purpose of Walking in Purpose and Building Kingdom People is to encourage our sisters and brothers in the Lord. Talk about the importance of discipleship, talk about the importance of worship, talk about the importance of missions. And so that's a message that we'll be talking about until Jesus returns. Amen. So let's go ahead. Thank you, everybody, for getting those like and share buttons there. Miss Valerie Lewis, thank you so much. God bless you, woman of God. Good evening to you. But Dr. Holden, I'm going to stop talking here, and I'm going to let you introduce yourself to those that may not know you.
Okay. Well, again, thank you so much for having me. I am so excited to be here. I'm Dr. LaTarsha Holden, born and raised here in Atlanta, Georgia. And so I tell you, I just thank God for every platform he brings me on, because it gives me a chance to share and talk about the goodness of and his mercy. So I'm just excited, and I'm still in awe of what he's done in my life and what he's still doing. Well, for those that don't know me, my story is definitely inspiring people around the world. It's 14 years now since my journey. But at 35 years old, I found myself homeless in the streets of Atlanta with 6 children. I had a GED and very little work history. I had no income. And I tell you, I really didn't know what to do. But within that time frame, I went from being homeless in the streets of Atlanta for 4 years to running for city council in the 2017 election. From a GED to a doctorate in leadership studies, I'm now a 14-time published author. And as you see with the post on the wall, I released my first Christian comic book as of last year. And as of 2020, I became Georgia and National Mother of the Year. And so I'm just excited of all the things God has done in my life.
Amen. Amen. That's an amazing journey in a really short period of time, from a GED to a PhD in 12 to 14 years, from homeless to Mother of the Year, servant leader, minister of the gospel. I mean, you've done so many things in this short period of time and overcome so many obstacles. I totally get why your story is inspiring others around the world. For me personally, one of the biggest pieces of your story that was most inspiring wasn't the PhD. It wasn't all of that. It was the attitude of being a servant leader that you were focused on during some of the roughest parts of your life. You're homeless, and I think I remember you telling me in the podcast that you were living in some boarded up homes, but you were teaching your children servant leadership, and they were going out and demonstrating who Jesus was, even at a time when you guys had a huge need yourself.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Well, for me, to be homeless at 35 years old with a GED and with that many children. So at that time, I had 2 kids in high school, 2 kids in middle school, and 2 kids in elementary school. but I didn't have anything materially to give them. And I'm contemplating suicide and legacy. I'm like, okay, I didn't want to leave my 6 children without anything. And so been homeless 4 years. We was homeless 2 years before I enrolled in college and 2 years during my undergrad. But my thing was I had to do something to save my 6 children from the school to prison pipeline, the drugs, the gangs, and honestly, I really didn't know what liberation would look like. I was lost. I was lost myself. But here I am trying to teach my 6 children legacy. So I just gave my 6 children the only thing that I possessed. To me, I was ashamed. You know, I didn't see the really value in it. But I just knew if I just gave them the key that I held dear to my heart, and that was service to others. I've been a servant leader ever since I was a little kid. And I just say, look, I don't have a lot to give you all materially. All I have to give you all is to love you unconditionally and to teach you how to serve. At that time, they're kids. They wanted stuff. They, you know, I'm talking about legacy. And for me, I tell you, it was the most humbling and humiliating thing at the same time, because for me, I felt like a loser, but I just gave them all I had. And so I have the newspaper clip, and I think I not too long recently posted on social media the newspaper articles where I said, well, I'm gonna teach you guys how to serve. And they were like, what are you talking about? We don't have anything. How can we help somebody else? And I just remember kind of like lowering my head. I said, I know, but if I can teach you guys how to give back now at your lowest, then I believe I've given you a strong foundation to build on to become great leaders.
Yes.
So is it Laquita or Laquita?
Laquita.
I tell you, to my surprise, my oldest son came to me, although they grumbled and complained and they murmured and why are we doing this? We don't have nothing, you know, but they was watching me. And to my surprise, my oldest son came to me his senior year in high school and said, well, Mother, by what you taught me, my way of serving is join the United States Marine Corps. Now he's 32 now. He recently retired after 10.5 years, and he just graduated with his associate degree. And it just started to trickle on. Then I had a son became a caretaker. Then I have my oldest daughter. She said, well, my way of giving back is going to the medical field. She's an EMT, a licensed pharmacy tech. Now she's a senior in college. Another daughter said, well, my way of giving back is going to the human service field. She graduated 2 years ago with her bachelor's in liberal studies and joined the United States Army 3 years ago. My 20-year-old is a 4-time published author, youth speaker, serial entrepreneur. She just became a paraprofessional. And my youngest son, Omega's there's no more coming after him.
He the last one.
He the last one. Omega just graduated from high school. He'll be 19 this month. And for me, like you said, the doctorate, if God did nothing else for me, what I have been allowed to witness with my 6 children is a miracle in itself.
This is it. I mean, that was the biggest takeaway for me when I first started following you on LinkedIn and I was hearing your story. All of the story is amazing. It's like as a single woman, the things that you've been able to accomplish, that's phenomenal. I mean, but then when I read that bit, you gave them the only thing that you had to give, and that was to teach them how to be servant leaders. And that's really what the Lord wants from us, to be able to serve others, to serve his people, to serve the body of Christ, to serve the unbeliever, that they might see Christ demonstrated through us and say, what must I do to be saved? And having that phenomenal impact on their lives. And now that process is continuous because now they're doing the same thing in their lives, you know, and teaching their children. And that thing will continue to be duplicated generation after generation. You were battling between suicide and legacy, and my sister, you was creating legacy for sure.
Yes.
You were definitely creating legacy. I know. During that time, you were serving in the community, doing some amazing things, and that's one of the things for me. when it comes to missions and discipleship, a lot of times we think about missions in terms of foreign missions, but you're doing some great work there in the city of Atlanta. Can you talk to us about why it's important for us as believers to have that impact in our community?
Yeah, well, being ordained, I remember I got ordained first as an evangelist and then into the office of pastor. People are getting tired of hearing sermons. They actually want to see a sermon. I think the reason even though I didn't win the seat when I ran for city council, but I think the reason why I did well in that race, because people saw a living vessel walking that's been where they've been. And I think that's where, a lot of times when we get to certain levels, we don't really talk about where God brought us. We just kind of highlight where we're at. And for me, it's no way possible. I don't even look at the awards and I'm grateful for everything God has, acknowledged me in. It's my relationship with Him. Yeah. That's the wilderness experience. See, it had it not been for the homeless for 4 years, at that time I thought He was trying to kill me. I'm like, you didn't allow nobody to help me. I was humiliated. I felt like I was drowning. I felt like I was gonna make it. But I just remember when He met me in the hospital room. I think when we talk, I had posed that question. I'm gonna pose it here. What happens when your struggle outlasts your strength? We all can go through something for a couple of days, months, some weeks, but what happens when you become the woman with the issue of blood? What happens when it becomes years and it seems like God is nowhere in sight? It seems like he can care less about you. What happens when those dark hours start to become dark days and moments and you're crying out to God? I tell you, for me, being homeless 4 years, and I got to keep 6 people motivated, even when I wanted to really die myself. I was humiliated. I mean, what could I have done? I didn't know how to bring a family that large plus myself out of homelessness and poverty. But the weight of that journey got so heavy. I was not raised in a church, and I didn't know God personally, but I just remember the journey got so heavy. And this when the suicide piece came in, I wanted to give up. And I remember walking to a hospital here in Riverdale, Georgia. And I told a lady at the desk when I walked through them glass doors, I said, ma'am, I can't do this anymore. She said, ma'am, are you saying you want to commit suicide? I said, yes, I'm tired. I had came to the end of my rope and they kept me for a week for observation. And on that floor, they had a padded room. And I asked the lady at the desk on that floor, I said, ma'am, can I go into that room? She said, ma'am, you're no threat to anybody. I said, I know, but I need to go in that room. And they allowed me to go into that room once a day for the week I was there for observation. And I would go into that room. I just remember dropping down to my knees, crying out, God, are you there? Please help me. I'm scared. I'm lost. I don't know what to do. And I tell you, I knew something was different. When they released me from the hospital, my situation did not immediately turn around, but I knew something was different. I knew I wasn't alone. And that's when I had matriculated through college with my associates, my bachelor's, my MBA. But when I opened that letter and read and said I got accepted to the PhD program, now I did want to bungee jump up to heaven, high five my man. I think for me, being the black sheep, the outcast, the one that the family talked and gossiped about, because I dropped out of school in 10th grade and had 4 kids by the time I was 22. Had it not been, because there was nobody else believing in me. So had it not been for His grace and mercy that carried me when I wanted to give up, when I cried during the midnight hours, I'm pacing that abandoned house, that floor, had it not been for His grace and mercy, there was no way I could have made it had He not stepped in. I didn't have the money. I didn't have the connections. I didn't have no family support. And the only thing I had for us any income was food stamps. So there was no child support. There was no job. I was living off food stamps. That's how I was able to feed my kids. And that was it. It's like that was my manna that God gave me to be able to feed them. But it was just me and him in the wilderness, them 4 years. It was the toughest years of my life because I had to learn how to become an organized woman, how to depend on him, how to walk by faith and not by sight, how to keep going when people laughing at me, when mom and daddy talking about me and aunties and everybody laughing at me, my sister and them looking at me like I'm crazy. It was in that wilderness. I tell people I went into the wilderness as burning fire. But when the storm was over, I came out as the rock. So I tell you how do not despise your wilderness experience.
Come on now. Yes. Oh my. I mean, you've dropped some amazing nuggets right there. Like, you dropped some amazing nuggets. If you guys are just tuning in, thank you so much for those that have just popped in. My name is LaQuita Monley. This is my amazing guest, Dr. LaTarsha Holden, and she's sharing with us some highlights of her journey and her story, her walk as a believer through some of the roughest wilderness experience and how the Lord delivered her from them all to where she is today. So if you know someone who needs some encouragement or you need some encouragement, stay tuned. If you know them, tell them to jump on Facebook Live. If they're on Twitter, they can follow us on this live broadcast that's going out across Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, as well as Roku TV and Apple TV. So it is reachable. So no matter what type of platform you like to look at, you can see us there. So, and I want to take a moment to thank our sponsors of Covenant Press. When you want to do more with the message of Christianity and you want to wear your faith, you want to check out Covenant Press. That's www.covenant-press.com. And they have some amazing faith-based Christian apparel and as well as other trinkets and things that you might find. I'm a coffee drinker myself, so they've got great coffee mugs and different things. So check out Covenant Press. They are the sponsors of tonight's broadcast. And I'm loving Dr. Holden's story. Like, you guys get this message out, hit those like buttons, hit those subscribe buttons. If this is your first time joining us on YouTube, you don't want to miss it. We come on every Friday evening at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time to share an amazing word in the Lord. Well, Dr. Holden, listen, you've given us some good bits. I know that the Lord has a word in your belly. And I'm ready to hear it. I know they're ready to hear it. I know they're ready to hear it. Some of our viewers they're just absolutely loving what happens when your situation is not matching up with what you believe in. Like, Lord, these tough times is still coming. Like, where is my deliverance? One of our viewers says, what happens? God is a way maker, a miracle worker, and a promise keeper. Yes, he is. Yes, he is. We have another viewer here. She loves the fact that you focus on servant leadership with your kids, because that's what it's all about at the end of the day. That servant leadership is what we need to be doing as believers, and it's definitely something that we need to be teaching to the next generation. So Miss Valerie, she said, hold on, I'm trying to read her comment. I'm sorry about that. Servant leaders must listen and do God's will. Absolutely. Servant leaders must listen and do God's will. Amen. So listen, I'm gonna stop talking again because I did my commercial break. And now I did my commercial. Covenant Press, they're great people. We know the owners of Covenant Press, amazing man and woman of God. And they do have some amazing things and doing some great things for the kingdom, for the advancement of the kingdom. So you guys do want to check out www.covenant-press.com.
Wow. Well, you know what? As you was talking, I was thinking about generational. When you're walking with God, change can be a beautiful thing. It really can, but it's painful. It's
Oh
painful.
my, yes.
I tell you, it. But when you walk with Him, you are guaranteed to fulfill that thing that He's called you to do. I had to learn how to not be moved by people's opinion of me. And so for me, the rejection and it was a training ground for me to be to start going to school, living in a board up house as squatters. It was at that moment I made a vow to myself that the streets was not going to raise my children, nor the jails will house them. And that's that time I said, well, I don't know what to do. And I had to go back to the last place I gave up on myself. And sometimes, people of God, we have to go back to the last place where you stopped, where you gave up, where you threw in the towel, and go back to that place. And so for me, dropping out in 10th grade, I had to go back to that place. And I tell you, I was scared out of my mind. I remember going to Beulah Heights back then. It was Bible college. I was going to Beulah Heights Bible College. I was shaking like a leaf. Here I was, 35 years old. The last time I had been in anyone's school, I was 15. And I'm like, what am I doing? I'm up here homeless, living in this board up house. And I'm trying to go back to school. But I knew no one was coming to save us. And it was up to me to at least try to change the trajectory of my family. But had I gave up in the midst of the wilderness, had I gave up when people was laughing at me and family members didn't support me when I started preaching and speaking, nobody would show up. When I started having book signings here and there, nobody would show up. When I ran for city council, I'm born and raised here, so both my family members, sides of my family is here, and nobody helped me campaign, but I had about 5 or 6 people that believed in me that would meet me every week to pray and walk with me through that city council journey. And it was then I realized that on your journey, the people that most likely will help you will not be those that you think will help you. It will be outsiders. I realized that on my journey, the ones that was doing a lot of talking, the ones that was telling me you ain't gonna be nothing and laughing and not supporting me, was the ones on the sidelines. Go back and look over your life. The ones that's doing a whole lot of talking are the ones that's too scared to get off the front porch, throw their hat in the ring and start to fight for their own lives.
Come on now.
I've rarely seen a person that's doing something with their lives got the time to talk you out of your dreams and goals.
Yes.
And so once I realized that I had to put my blinders on. You know, when I'm going through homeless, I know my kids see my nieces and nephews, their moms can afford them clothes, and my nieces and nephews are, mess with my children, and so I'm pushing. I had to learn how to crawl. And then there were days I had to learn how to rest because I was tired. I want to give up. See, a lot of times, some of these motivational speakers, they tell you to keep going and you only get 4 hours of sleep. Don't let these people tell you that when you walk with God, I get 8 hours of sleep, whether I was homeless or not. Don't let these people tell you you need to put wear and tear on your body in order for God to do what He's going to do in your life. There was no way I could have done what I did had I not trust God. And I do remember undergrad Professor Richard Good told the class that the world belongs to those who are disciplined. And I had to learn the art of discipline. Homelessness taught me the art of discipline. Things that I needed to cut away, time management, how to stay focused. One of my ex-friends, romantic friends, one thing he said that stuck with me when we first met, he said, no matter what happens, promise me you'll always keep your eyes on Jesus. And the way he said it, it's simple, but the way he said it with the eyes, and that stuck with me. So no matter what happened in my life, I kept my eyes on Jesus. I kept saying, Lord, I don't care what's going on around me. I'm gonna still praise you. Even when I felt like I'm telling you, people of God, mentally, I'm still in awe that I'm still here. The mental weight of me, I feel like I was drowning out below water, but my children was on each hand. All I was worried about getting them safely to shore. Getting them safely to shore. I've told my 6 children that when we was homeless and they would be in school and I was sitting in my car in between classes, and I said, I just used to watch. And I never saw a U-Haul following a funeral procession line.
Come on now.
And that lets me know it's okay to have nice things. There's nothing
Mm-hmm.
wrong with that. The problem is when the nice things start to have you.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, when you start working 50, 60, 70 hours, climbing up the corporate ladder, and when you start neglecting your kids because you're trying to get that lifestyle, you want to be in the clique, you want to be. Atlanta now is like the new Hollywood. We call it church Hollywood. You want to be in it now, but see what God taught me was, God taught me, daughter, you didn't have to have man's approval. You didn't have to be a part of any cliques or associations, any sororities, any groups. You didn't have to have what man deemed as successful in order for me to elevate you.
Come on now.
When you
Come
walk
on now.
with God, and I really tell you, sister, I'd rather be promoted by God over man any day, because when God promotes you, nobody can say, had it not been for me, she or he wouldn't be where they're at today. God is the only one that brought me before American Mothers Inc., a national organization. And at the end of when Omega turned 18, my last child turned 18. See, that's how God would do. When you think, Lord, I did my best as a mother. That's how I was thinking. I did my best. We didn't go on family vacation. I didn't have stuff to buy them for Christmas, maybe 1 or 2 toys. And I stood in the empty stocking fund line, getting the little bags of Christmas gift for them. God, I didn't have it, but God will let you know.
Yeah.
That what you did right by your kids. And God, when everybody turned 18, I got a call that I was chosen as Georgia Mother of the Year.
Come on now.
Then God said, daughter, I'm gonna do a little further. See, when you walk with God and you're not selling yourself out, you're not. Well, I would be lying if I told you that while I was homeless, thoughts didn't come in my head. Well, maybe if I go be a stripper. I'm just being honest, because when your back is against the wall, you start to think a million things. And then, I started to think, well, maybe if I go dance 1 or 2 times to maybe if, and I just remember I said, well, let me call a friend. A lot of times we don't want accountability partners in our lives because we want people that's going to amen us when we on some wrong stuff. But I had this one person that I called. And I said, girl, I'm thinking about going to dance. She started to laugh. She said, I'm not laughing because you're a nice looking lady and got a body. I'm not laughing because of that. She said they would eat you up in there. Your personality is not like, she was like, you wouldn't be able to handle that lifestyle. And she started to say some things they were doing, and we kind of laughed and joked it off. But what if I didn't have an accountability partner, somebody in my life? A lot of times the enemy would send people into our lives, or people we think are friends. And what if she would have said when I was at my most vulnerable moment, I'll go with you. Come on, let's go. We can go make some money. But for that momentary relapse where I was thinking I had to go out there to the world, she reminded me, you don't have to do that. Just keep going. Yeah. And for me, I kept going. I kept going. And when I tell you, the rejection got harder. I remember when I was running for city council, my mom lived 5 minutes from my district. And a lot of people go down her street from my district. And I said, Mother, can I just place a sign in your yard? No, you can't do that. And I'm like, it's a freaking sign. It's a sign. You can't do that. And my children were like, Grandma, what are you talking about? Just a sign. People come from her district right through your street. But see what happens when you're gonna get tested when you're moving along the job. I just respect, yes, ma'am, no problem. Can you still be a loving person to those that deny you, those that betray you, those that reject you, those that talk about you? Can you still? Because see, one thing about being a leader, it's easy to be a person when the lights are flashing, the cameras are flashing, you're in magazines and being interviewed. But can you still be that loving person to those who have wronged you, who have talked about you and gossip about you? Can you still be loving and kind? Come on now. And so for me, I was still loving and kind. And when my mother passed 2 years ago, I'm sorry.
Take your time. Take your time. Take your time.
She had a stroke. She had a stroke and a seizure. So for about a year, she was in and out of rehab homes. I went over there one day to go and feed my mother, to go visit her. And when I clicked on the light, I've never heard my mom talk about Jesus, proclaim nothing. We didn't go to church. But when I clicked on the light to go into the room and she saw me, she said, Jesus is Lord twice. And I was taken back and I'm like, yeah, mother, you're right. You're right. And as I was feeding her, she said, you're not evil. And it kind of took me back because I know I'm the oldest of three girls, but I was treated like the stepsister in the Cinderella story. She said, you're not evil. She said, I want to apologize for how I treated you. She said, you always have had a good heart. You're a good-hearted person. You have done nothing wrong to nobody. And your kids are good people too. And she said, again, you're not evil. 3 days later, after that, she had a stroke and never came back around, and she died. But God is so good that on our journey, sometimes when family members, he gave me that foreclosure for me because I was raised like I was evil, and I'm the darkest of my two sisters. They're very, lighter skin, like Tisha Campbell light skin. So I don't know what that was, but God allowed me my kindness. I was still kind. I was still compassionate. And at the end, before she left, she apologized and we was able to make amends. Keep going, people of God.
Yeah.
A lot of people are tied to your destiny. Just last year, right before Christmas, God allowed me, and I say allowed because a lot of people don't get the chance to see children and grandchildren. They don't get the chance to see that. But God allowed me to see my 9-year-old grandson become a published author.
Come on now. That's awesome.
So now my children's children are start walking in the way because now my children are teaching their children. And so I just want to let you know that on your journey, when you think you're loving and you're being kind, and I had to learn just because you're like that, that does not mean that you're going to receive that back from people. I think that's the harder thing. So look, we want to receive we think, God, I'm being like you. And I had to learn. I tell you a story. That was a young monk. He had joined the ashram and he went in with this, oh, I'm going to love everybody. Yes, we in here together. And when he went into the ashram and he noticed the other monks wasn't just in a hurry to show him all this love and all this concern back. So he went to the elder monk and the elder monk said, what bothers you? He said, I don't understand. I'm trying to show everybody love, but I'm not getting it back. But the elder monk asked him this. Why are you doing that? He said, because it's who I am.
Yeah.
He said, well, if it's because of who you are, you just be who you are. Don't look for nothing in return. Because let me tell you this, karma has a way of finding you and bringing back the love and care and compassion that you show to others. So people of God, I just want to encourage you that on your journey, when you're God, they're talking about me and I'm just trying to be kind and loving. God, why is my family turning their back on me? Why are they betraying me? God still wants you to be who you are.
Yes. Yes.
He still wants you to be who you are. And sometimes the people that we give love to are not in a position to give it back to us, but that's okay because God knows how to locate you with your blessings. So I'm saying God knows how to bring you in front of those who will bless you and love on you. And so I don't want to just keep going on, my sister. So I just right there.
No, you listen. That's a beautiful thing, what you've been sharing, because it's about being transparent. And that's one of the things that I love the most about you. In this journey that we have as people, believers, unbelievers, life is hard. It's hard. It's hard. Now, we as believers sometimes, especially when we're encouraging people, we're not always as transparent as we should be and saying, that everything that you need, your answer, your solution is in God. Absolutely. Your solution is in Him. The best decision a person could ever make is fully surrendering their life to the Lord Jesus Christ and being filled full of His Spirit. But that don't mean the problem stop.
That's it. Yeah.
Yes, that doesn't mean the problem stop. It simply means that now we have a different set of lenses by which to view the problem. So our responses are different. And now that we know and understand who God is, who he created us to be, and we're responding to life out of who we are, then things do change. It's like when you came out of that room, you were going into that padded room and you were communing with the Lord, and you were coming out of that room every time strengthened by the word that he would share with you while you were in that private time.
Yeah.
Your situation was still your situation. But when you came out of those times and you have that word from the Lord that give you more strength, to give you better insight, more vision, more determination, your response to your situation is what makes the difference. And that's one of my biggest key takeaways from your story, from your testimony, and from just my time spending in the Lord, spending time in his word and spending time in prayer. The Lord, prayer, we always like to say prayer changes things. Prayer changes us. It conditions your heart and it changes you. And when we change, our response changes. It's like when your mom didn't want you to put that sign in the yard, you had a legitimate reason to be angry, to put it mildly, to put it mildly, you had a legitimate reason. But your response over those times conditioned your heart, conditioned their heart, and you got the closure you needed in the end.
Yes.
By the grace of God. Not only did you get closure, but because you knew your mother was not one who gave much time to church or God or anything like that, it brought salvation to her life, which was the most important thing. At the end of the day, it's all about advancing his kingdom through our actions and through our words. It's like when a lot of times when I'm talking, my favorite analogy to use when I'm talking about the right responses, because people cook, whether you know how to cook or you don't know how to cook. We got to get in the kitchen sometime.
Yes.
And you put water on the grease fire, that is not the right answer. It might have been the right answer for a different type of fire, but not a grease fire. You're going to burn your kitchen down. It may be your house. But if you respond to that thing the right way and put the right baking soda, pot lid, or whatever to smother that, the kill the oxygen, to smother that flame, you might just end up with a burnt pot or a burnt meal, but you won't bring a whole lot of additional damage. And that is the attitude that you have. That is the maturity level that you have, the responses that you had. Even though all of these different things was coming your way, you couldn't stop them from coming. But your response, your Christ-like response, it changed your environment, your children. It eliminated the people who wasn't supposed to be there. It drew the people who were the divine connections that needed to be there for the necessary doors to open, even when you didn't know they were opening behind the scenes. Because I won't. The other thing that I will not forget is your PhD journey. Yeah, that was powerful. Like, come on now. Wow. Yeah.
I do believe God do reward us for our faithfulness.
Yes.
A year into and I just very transparent about that journey. At first, I was a little scared about it because God does what he wants to do whenever he wants to do it, different from different people. But after I had been in school nearly 10 years. And so by the time I got to the PhD program, I did about a year in the PhD program, and I got a call to the office. And the dean of the program was like, I got good news and bad news. He was like, good news is whatever you're trying to do, you can do. You almost have 240 credit hours. You've been here for 10 years. He said, but the bad news is because you've been here for so long or been in school for so long, you have exhausted your funds and you will not be able to complete the PhD program. And so I walked out of there, my head down. I remember walking to my car, and it was a year before I ran for city council. I said, God, I tried my best. And honestly, I was physically tired, but I said, God, I tried my best. I really value leadership. I was getting a PhD in leadership studies, and I want to be the best leader I can be. But as my journey was going on, probably 6 months later, I get a call. I'm at the hair salon. I get a call from Dr. Carlton Davis. And I'm up under the dryer. And he said, can I speak to Dr. Holden? I kind of, well, sir, I didn't finish the PhD program. He said, Dr. Holden. He chuckled a little. He said, Dr. Holden, this is Dr. Carlton Davis, president of G. Moore Theological Institute. Let me ask you a couple of questions first before I tell you why I'm making this call. He said, Dr. Holden, is it true that you was in a PhD program for leadership studies? And evidently they had been following my journey. I said, yes, sir. He said, is it also true that you taught your 6 children the principles of servant leadership? I said, yes, sir. He said, it's also true that you're now coming back and running for city council to go back and help those in the community. I said, yes, sir. He says, also true that you're a multiple published author. I said, yes, sir. He said, Dr. Holden. He said, Dr. Holden, we're not giving you anything. He said, Dr. Holden, you became your own dissertation. There was nothing that you could have written outside of your life experience that exemplified leadership. And at that moment, I remember coming away from up under the dryer and I hit the floor. He said, Dr. Holden, and I was running for city council. They was having a graduation. There's an online college. And I said, well, I can't come to the graduation because I'm running for city council. He said, well, we'll mail your degree. He said, don't you be ashamed of how God has done this for you. God has found favor with you. We have been following your journey for years. He said, you have exemplified leadership. You earned your doctorate. We're not giving you anything. You didn't come to us. We're not giving you anything. And at first, when I got the phone, I'm like, God, is this real? What? And something came over me and God said, I did that for you.
Yeah.
God knows how to locate you.
Come on now.
To bless you.
Come on now.
I'm at the hair salon. I'm not reaching out to nobody about doctorates. God knows how to bless you. And he does not need man's approval.
Come on now.
That.
Come on.
See, a lot of times I think God is using my life for those who are saying, I don't have the connections. God, I have all these kids. God, I'm uneducated and I don't have work experience. I'm not part of the corporate America. God is using my life to let people know all you need is that mustard seed.
Come on now.
That's all you need for me to work with you. If you because one thing God has the power to change your life instantly. But I often tell people that God did not magically change my life. I had to be a willing participant in my own deliverance.
Come on now.
My degrees didn't come to me. My books didn't just fall in my lap. I just didn't wish I was a city council candidate. I still had to be a willing participant in my own deliverance. And so I respect everyone who did their dissertation physically. But I do believe for me, God used the 4 years I was homeless as my dissertation. I continued to further my education in leadership and my knowledge, my trainings. Even now, my servant leadership, joining the AmeriCorps. That's a volunteer. Everything I'm doing is still rooted in servant leadership. Being a fellow in the Black Child Development Institute. My heart and passions for leaders. Because I believe the more effective you are as a leader, the healthier your home is. And if your home is healthy, your family is healthy, the better and healthier our communities are. And so I do everything I can to further my knowledge and expertise in leadership. But only God can do that. And no one can take that away from me. So I bless everyone who actually had to do the physical paper. But those 4 years I was homeless, and bringing my 6 children out of homelessness and poverty and teaching them servant leaderships. I just thank God for his grace and mercy on me when it came to that.
That's amazing. That's amazing. It's like when we are busy doing the things that God has designed us to do, that's what you just said. It's not about who you know and any of that, because he can locate you to give you your blessing, your testimony, your life, your journey, your story, the things that the enemy set up to kill you and to destroy you. The entire time the Lord was working it together for your good. 14 plus years ago, when you were homeless with your kids. If someone would, and you had a GED, sitting in one of the boarded up houses, if somebody would have told you, my sister, in just a little while, in just a little while,
my God,
a little while, because it's just in a twinkling of an eye for the Lord. In a little while, you won't be sitting in this boarded up house. Your children won't be lacking any good thing. And not only that, but you'll be Dr. LaTarsha Holden, who will be training other leaders in the body of Christ, in the community, in government. I mean, you've covered every sphere, my sister. You've covered every sphere. We are, those 5 mountains or whatever you will. You covered every area in this much time.
And then,
by the grace and power of God. And it wasn't like, that wasn't your goals. That wasn't what was on your mind. Your mind said, I need to serve. And I need to teach my children how to serve. And I need to understand how to walk by faith and not by sight. And I need to show them and leave them that legacy. And the Lord was steadily elevating you. That professor said, they've been following your story. You weren't advertising. You weren't putting no money in the marketing machine or social media. You were busy living your life, doing what God said. And He was ordering your steps. He was opening the doors. And you didn't even know it. And that's not something that's just exclusive to you. That's something that we as believers have to understand. When I keep first things first, you got first things first. My spiritual father says that all the time. You got to keep first things first. When we keep the Lord first and we're doing what He has called us to do, we're operating in obedience, the afflictions got to come. The hard times got to come. But He's given us the power to overcome it. And our mind cannot imagine, like 14 years ago, could you have even conceived in your mind that I would be a 14-time published author? I would be Mother of the Year, not only in the state of Georgia, but across the U.S. by this amazing national organization called Mothers Inc. Could you imagine that you will be a fellow? Or like, because that just came out your mouth like it's just a common thing to say. Let me say that common thing to say.
And I think that's why I'm big on self-reflection. I sit and reflect, and I'm always in constant praise and worship. I sit here. TV for me now is a treat. I give myself maybe 2 hours in the evening after I did what God called me to do during the day. There's no way when I think about living in the shelters, sleeping in my cars, abandoned house, the board up house, scraping up money for hotels. When my daughter just told me the humiliation just as a whole as family, she said, Mother, when I was in middle school and we was homeless, she said, I cut class because, when we was living with Auntie, she used to fuss at you and talk to you mean, and you used to cry and make you feel bad about don't use her water. And she said, I didn't take a shower for a week or two, and I started to smell, and I hid outside in a ditch, and I'm looking, I'm like, what? Somebody could have got you. And she's like, well, I didn't want to come to you because you was doing your best, but I just kept going, and I they say, had you gave up, if you would have stopped going, we don't know what we would have been, because you kept going, and we saw people laughing at you, and we saw. That's how we kept going. That's how we learned to keep going, even when it gets rough, even when it gets tough. You know, when your back is against the wall, just keep going. And you know, and for me, and right there, she's serving in the army, and her thing is, when I come out, I'm gonna go on. Her thing is, when I come out, I'm already looking for ways I want to serve. I want to get in with an organization. I want to serve, and I tell you, that you can't take that away from me. You know, I didn't have a lot, but I did what I could with the little that I had. So yeah, I felt that doctorate with pride. I don't know a research. I've read books. I'm an avid reader. I still haven't read a book, a study, a research paper that could have told me how to came out of this situation.
Yeah.
I haven't read it.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm always grateful to God because He didn't have to do it. Just 14 years ago, the only people knew me was the welfare office. You know, for me, I've never visited jails, the gangs. I've never had a problem with my children on drugs. You can't. Had God not stepped in, it's only it's a whole family of 7. Homelessness and poverty. I'm forever praise Him. It's nothing that man has here that I want, that I will leave Him to go and get. When I ran for city council, I have met men that say, "Hey, if you come and go out with me, I can introduce you to these people." And I said, "No. See, you weren't there when I was homeless.
Come on now.
See, you weren't there when if you think I'm finna sell my God out to get ahead, whether I win this election or not, it's gonna be on my own merit.
Come on.
What I stand for, what I believe. And if I don't win, well, I just don't win. But because I know how you start a thing.
Come on now.
You gotta keep that same. And if I start going out, if I start doing a little something to get ahead, then I gotta keep that thing going to get it. And I just decided it was God in their hospital room with me.
That's it. That's it. That's it.
It was Him that saved my children from the streets. I'm not a part of corporate America. I don't have a 401k. I don't have a big house. But you know what? I got 6 children that I poured my heart and soul into so they can have a chance at life. Then by those means, I'm successful.
Absolutely.
I'm successful.
Absolutely. Beyond successful. I mean, that right there, what we start with is what we end with. He that has begun a good work in us shall perform it until the day of Jesus Christ. And we have to hold on to that and know that God started this thing in me. He will sustain me. He will provide for me. He has everything that I need. And any resources that I need that He'll provide for me, they won't come with an unnecessary price tag.
Exactly.
They won't come with an unnecessary price tag. And when I am doing it according to His will, everything that concerns me, He's perfecting it. My children concern me. So He perfected that. And now you're looking at the next generation, a 9-year-old grandson that's a published author. You have the blessings of the Lord definitely have made you rich. And the important thing is that last statement, as you were walking that journey and the Lord was allowing certain things to happen and you were overcoming certain things, the one big thing was you were understanding what success meant. Not what the world said, not what the church said, not what corporate America says, not what anybody else says, but what does success mean to you and how you defined it clearly through your Christian perspective through your journey and your walk with the Lord, where you are. He defines success for you.
Yes.
And being joyful in that definition of success, can't nobody take that away. Win or lose an election.
Yeah.
14 years ago, in that boarded up house, you wouldn't even thought about running for the office. The thought process and the action that you took to walk it out to run in the election, oh, that's success, baby.
Yeah.
That's victory. It was like you said at the beginning of the conversation. The people who have all the time to say all of the negative things, they're in the boat.
Yes.
They're in the boat complaining. Peter didn't have time to complain about the weather pattern because he was too busy walking on the water.
What? That's right.
He was too busy. That was a complete and total success. There was no failure in that. You know, whatever theologian, however you want to look at it, if we're just talking about overcoming fear and walking in a level of success, Peter was successful because he got out of the boat and he walked on the water.
That's right.
Yes, he should not have taken his eyes off the Lord, but how close was he to him in order for Jesus just to reach out his hand?
That's right.
He got close enough for him to reach out his hand and save him. Everybody else was still in the boat. So, wow, like amazing, just simply amazing. Your testimony is definitely one of not just overcoming, but clearly defining a path. And this is why we have to be involved in our communities, our local environments, and missions and discipleship. How many men and women are sharing a story similar to yours that need someone like you, like me, to encourage them in that moment where they are? I'm not saying we're going to be the answer that God provides to deliver them out. But if we're not out there to be a part of the process, to sow a seed, to give a hug, to provide something in that moment, to demonstrate Christ to them, will they make it to their moment of overcoming? Like in your story, in your journey, I mean, are there some significant people or situations where no, your breakthrough didn't come in that moment, but you definitely know looking back, that was an angel that provided, that person was God sent, that provided whatever they provided while you were walking through that journey?
Yeah, you know, one incident coming definitely in mind. We was riding around, had to been summertime. We was riding around. I was trying to figure out where we were going to sleep that night. And I heard a still small voice say, anybody from Atlanta know where I'm talking? Go to Berean Christian Bookstore on Cleveland Avenue. And the kids are in my ear, where we going to sleep? And we tired. And they ready to get out the car. I'm crying like, I don't know. And I heard the small voice again, because at first I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm thinking it's myself talking to myself and say, go to Berean Christian Bookstore. Your help is there. And I tell this story whenever I can, because if they're not angels, I would love to meet the people. But when I went to the bookstore, I got out the car and I went inside, and there was a lady standing up reading. And I was drawn to her, and I went to her and told her what was going on. She said, well, hold on, let me go talk with my husband. She comes back and said, ma'am, do you have a car? I said, yes, ma'am. And they say, follow us. When I tell you, for one night, these people treated us like we was out of town guests. She cooked up a feast like it was a mini Thanksgiving. And, you know, and for one night, they gave us a place that we call home, that I can get some rest, that the kids can get some rest. And when the next day when I left, they gave me $60 and she prayed for me. And I tell you, right today, I cannot even remember what they look like. So I don't even know what these people are angels. But for one night, they gave us a place we can call home. For one night. So so whoever's watching, if God lays on your heart to assist somebody, you might be the angel that they need just for that one night.
Mm.
You know, and along your journey, you said something earlier, along your journey, um, the setbacks and the rejection, see, the enemy will still try to remind you who he told you all those years you were against God's word. I remember when I ran for city council, I went back to my college because my college was dear to me. I grew up my college. My children grew up, 10 years. They saw us grow. And I remember I went for a professor position. I'm running for city council. And I went for a professor position to teach the class success for successful life and ministry.
Mm-hmm.
I got the job. I mean, the professor, he interviewed me, the dean over the program, and I start crying. He said, "You can call your children and tell them welcome aboard." I'm calling. He said, "Lord, you about to have me crying." But 2 weeks later, I went back to get my schedule to start my class. And the guy sits across from me and he has this look on his face. I said, "What's the problem?" He said, "I have the authority to hire you."
Mm-hmm.
But the guy over me saying, "Well," he said, "Did you have classes with him?" I said, "Yeah, and I did pretty good in his classes." He said, "Well, he felt like, he want the best of the best to come out of school. So he's overriding me, which I have the authority." He said, "And I feel bad because I just hired you." And I tell you, that was the enemy way of telling me, still trying to remind you, you're not good enough.
Yeah.
You're not. See, the enemy will still try to come with them old lies and try to tell you, you're not, you're still worthless. You're not good enough. Nobody wants you. And I remember when I walked out of there, I had my head down, walking to the car. And I said, "God, I'm not good enough. I grew up here. This is why I became a woman to me." When I came here at 35 years old, I was broken. I didn't know who I was. And then they say I'm not good enough. And I just remember I was running for city council. I said, "But you know what? I still had a race to run." And although that pain hurted me and that rejection, I shook it off. I held my head high, and I just kept going. And as of last year, I was invited to speak via um, Zoom. I was invited to speak to college students in India on the subject of leadership. So where people would say you're not good enough, the enemy will use those particular people to remind you of the lies the enemy unsert. But God will open up doors to show you. But now you're an international speaker.
Yeah.
I've been interviewed all around the world, from Africa, Australia, and then was asked to speak to college students in India. Only God can take me from being homeless to being featured on Black Enterprise.
Yeah.
Just a couple of months ago, I was invited to Hollywood to be a guest on To Tell the Truth with Anthony Anderson.
Come on.
Only God can do that. So when man tells you you're not good enough, God will show you you are good enough, daughter. Matter of fact, I'm going to God, when you walk with him. That's why I don't care. I'm not selling out to get part of this, what the world has to offer. If God just give me whatever this is why I tell God, give me what you feel I need.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want nothing more, nothing less. I want the portion that you have for me, and I'll be satisfied. I'm like Paul. I learned how to be content no matter what situation I'm in.
Yeah. Yes.
I learned how to be content. If I got a little plucker, I drive on with the pluck. I learned how to be content, and that's what homelessness taught me. Mm-hmm. How to be content with no matter what situation I'm in.
Wow, that's amazing. From rejection at the place where you felt like you were birthed into womanhood, into the woman that God has created you to be, to walk in your purpose, to moving into as an international speaker. So God was saying, "Okay, that's not what I have for you. That's not big enough. I've got something better. I've got something greater." And that just brings to mind several conversations that I've had in the past, and even a conversation that I battle with in my own head in my journey. Sometimes what we look at as the epitome of success because our mindset, sometimes our thinking is so limited. And God said he's going to give us exceedingly abundantly above anything that we can ask or think. And so when he closes the door to the small space, your mindset is saying, but Lord, this is it. And he's saying, no, it's not.
Yes.
I've got more. I've got more. Just allow me, go through this moment, but I have something greater. And we have to live that. We have to remember that at all times, no matter what happens. If he's closed the door, that means he's opening another door.
Yes.
Position yourself and be ready to receive what that next door is and say, okay, God, thank you.
That's it. You just got to, and that's what I just learned. It stings, it hurts, but you got to learn how to keep moving with the pain. And then just early this year, I got invited to speak at Spelman online summit on the subject of homelessness and poverty. Wow. So once somebody tell you you're not good enough, God is, that's why I'm like, God, whatever you want from me, whatever you have for me, I'm grateful. I'm just grateful that you can use me, that someone like me where people might think, well, she's not from our circle, she's not from the in crowd, but God saying, God was showing people I can use even those y'all think don't supposed to be here.
Come on now.
And I think that's what he's doing in my life. He's showing people the only thing you need to be is connected to him. And he would do, I tell you, half of the stuff, some of the awards and featured in magazines, man didn't do that. God would place me on someone's, they might be like, hey, I was scrolling social media and God say, stop. She needs to be interviewed. Stop. She needs to be in your magazine. Stop. And God is my PR person. God is, I don't have money to pay a PR person. When I start writing books, I didn't have money to market. Nobody knew me, but I wrote because I felt like one day when my time here expires, one day, maybe one of the books that I've written would touch somebody's life. I was just moving in purpose.
Come on.
I just started to chase purpose and not perfection.
Come on.
That's it. I just said,
say that.
I'm just going to chase purpose and not perfection. I didn't wait till the perfect time. I didn't wait until I was into the right groups and cliques. I didn't wait until all the money had started rushing in. I started to move in purpose. And that's how at the end of my journey, of that 12-year cycle, I came out with book publish because I didn't worry about God. I didn't say, well, God, I ain't got the money to publish. God, I don't know nobody. God, I said, okay, God, this came in my spirit. I'm going to write this. Okay, God, yeah, I want to encourage the children. So let me write children. But okay, God, I want to encourage leaders. I wrote a book on leadership. I just released my life story and I just started moving in purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, man. Listen, chase purpose and not perfection. I love it. Chasing purpose and not perfection. When we're moving in the direction of God's desired results for our life, all the pieces that need to come together will come together.
Yes.
All the pieces, because when we're chasing purpose and we're allowing God's will to be done in us and through us, he has to provide. He provides for his purpose. He provides for his purpose, because when we're doing that, not only are we growing and developing in him, but we're helping others to grow and to develop in him. And that's how his kingdom is advanced. That's called taking care of kingdom business.
Yes.
Absolutely. Wow. Listen, Dr. Holden, we have definitely gone over our time. I apologize, but I just love talking to you. You have so much to give and so much to share. I think I went over our time when we did the interview on the podcast. I did it twice now. Yes. I do apologize, and I want to be respectful of your time and the time for my viewers, because we do want them to continue to come back each week and be blessed by the different guests that we bring on and the wisdom that we get to share. But for those that want to connect with you and learn more about you, how can they connect with you?
Oh my goodness. Well, first, hey guys, get my book, No Longer Lost: From Homelessness to Overcomer. It's available on Amazon. But if you want an autographed copy, you can go to my website right down on the screen, www.drlatarshaholden.info. All of my books are on there. If you order this, I will actually send you an autographed copy of my comic book. So you can book me if you want me to speak at your event, upcoming events, also on my website. My email address is LaTarsha, LaTarsha Holden, LaTarsha Holden, HOLDEN at yahoo.com. I'm excited. So if you needed someone to come speak, if you're looking for an empowerment coach, you can find all of that on my website. I'm also on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter. So I'm looking forward, and thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it has definitely been my pleasure. It has definitely been my pleasure. You're welcome. Thanks for coming. I know that this won't be our last time working together. The Lord is, I think he'll open up another door because I'm praying for it. But to Walking in Purpose audience, guys, thank you so much for those of you that have been popping in and out of the room this evening. Listen, I appreciate you. I love you. Thank you so much for that support. Please continue to like and share this broadcast. Share this amazing story of encouragement. We all have moments where we need to be encouraged in the Lord and strengthened for our journey. And Dr. Holden has definitely shared some things with us this evening that can help us do just that. We also know people who need to hear this positive message. So let's get let's get those links. Get them reposted out on your social media. If it's your first time, thank you for joining us. Join our Facebook group. If it's your first time on YouTube, hit that subscribe button every Friday evening at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. You will have another amazing guest and an additional live broadcast. Until next week, I'm your host, Laquita Monley. You guys have a blessed evening. Take care.